It is the, wow, it is the 4th. It is the 4th of October, 2023. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Thank you very much for choosing to begin your day with us right here on the Morning Drift. There's just a lot that we have packed for you today on our show this morning that goes all the way up to 10 a.m. Top of that is the issues around the conversations of the bombers of Kenya, the declarations that we're seeing coming from the president in terms of travel, and the bigger headlines today about how that dialogue team of the bombers of Kenya is clashing on the basis of ideas that are getting presented in that committee. We're going to get into that, talk about that, plus many other issues that we're going to wake up to this morning. You can actually be in touch with us online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Well, let's get this started this morning by looking at exactly what it is that you are waking up to in your daily life. Well, let's start with the Daily Nation this morning, and this is what they're saying. RUTO reverses Uhuru's $6 billion telecom buyout. Now, the Kenya Kwanza government yesterday overturned a decision by Uhuru Kenyatta's administration to purchase a 60% stake in Telecom Kenya just days to the 2022 general election, and directed the UK private investment fund, Helios, and its Kenyan affiliate, Jamhuri Holdings, to refund the money paid for their acquisition. It's a big story. It's what we ran into in the last days of the Uhuru Kenyatta's administration. It was a big saga on exactly how the government was essentially closed out of that buyout of Telecom Kenya. That essentially opens just a lot in terms of how RUTO has viewed that particular case. And you can read that interesting story on page 7. There is Kenya Kwanza now, azimio clash over IEBC poll audit. Now, President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga have once again clashed over the reconstitution of the electoral agency and a demand for an audit of last year's presidential election results. While Mr. Odinga's team insisted on a forensic audit to establish the truth about the 2022 polls, the president's side said the Supreme Court's ruling was final. That particular story, again, covered on page 4. So, on the other side of that, Nyamira Governor Amos Nyaribo yesterday survived an impeachment motion after it failed to garner support from at least 2/3 of the members of the county assembly. Read that particular story on page 5. Now, the story that we've covered right here on Lookuptv and on our website on www.lookuptv.co.ke. Going to read on the panic that is grabbed a Reggie Girl student that are taken ill. Mysterious disease breaks out at school. That story covered on our page 10. And on page 37, you're going to read about how on sports, a particular story covered that, and that is the biggest headlines that you're waking up to. Let's cross over to the Standard this morning. Same story. Raila RUTO clash of ideas at dialogue meeting. Azimio and Kenya Kwanza yesterday deferred on the Kenya's future and how to resolve electoral injustices when they submitted their views on the National Dialogue Committee. The government side wants nothing to do with an audit of last year's elections, whereas the opposition still insists it won and a review is needed. That story covered on page 6. It's a big story, same story that we did see on the Daily Nation. On the right-hand side of the that story that is covered on page 6, we're going to go all the way to page 4, where the Peace Mission of West set up case over Haiti. Read that particular story. You're also going to read on a turning point for the Catholic Church. A crucial meeting in Vatican is supposed to give direction on a myriad issues facing the church. That story covered on page 2. And on the back pages, we're going to read about Newcastle's big moment in Europe. They're going to play a very interesting match tonight. It is Newcastle versus Paris Saint-Germain. That's a very, very big match. Yesterday, Arsenal and Manchester United disappointed Europe. Manchester United, as expected, were beaten by Galatasaray. Still, 2 matches, 0 points. They are the last in that group. When you look at their goal difference, chances are that if they lose one more match, they might clash out at the group stages. Arsenal, bit of hot and cold. They played Lens yesterday. And if you looked at that particular match, good game from Arsenal, but then the goals just did not come. Yeah, there's so many attempts. Good goalkeeping yesterday. We had 2 mistakes that led to goals from David Raya yesterday that essentially then put Juan Arteta into question, yeah, on that rotation of the goalkeepers. But as expected, Arsenal will come out of that group. So let's just talk about 2 teams, Newcastle and Man United. Are they going to come out of that group? Big question. If they do, fine. If they do not, we'll say as expected. Good. For now, we take a tiny breather right here on the Morning Drift. Once we come back, then I'll be taking you straight to your newsroom, to our newsroom this morning, where we get to look at some of the biggest stories that you're waking up to. Good morning. Well, let's begin with El Nino news this morning, where Butonge Boys High School in Bungoma has witnessed significant damage due to heavy rainfall Monday night. The El Nino rains have left them without landing materials and kitchen appliances. Let's take a look at it.
Learning activities at Butonge High School in Sirisia, Bungoma County came to a halt after their classes were badly damaged due to heavy rains. School Principal Moses Kachisa has stated that the El Nino rains have affected at least 300 students and left some teachers in the cold after their home roofs were carried away.
Kachisa Moi, mwalimu mkuu wa shule ya upili ya AC Butonge, ambayo jana iliathirika na mkasa wa mvua ya El Nino mwendo wa saa 8:30, na haikuchukua muda maana palitokea upepo mkali peperusha paa za madarasa, bweni moja na nyumba ambazo walimu wanaishi. Kando na hayo, kulikuwa na miti katika shule ambayo pia iling'olewa, na uzuri ni kwamba haikupata chochote cha kuathiri, maana ikiwa ingeangukia magari au nyumba zingine au hata wanafunzi ama mifugo, basi tungekuwa tumehesabu hasara kubwa sana. Na takriban madarasa 7 yote yameng'olewa paa.
My name is Timothy Muyeho, Deputy Principal AC Butonge. I'm also a teacher here. It's the highest time that the national government, even the county government, and any other well-wishers should come in and assist us as a school. Both financial and any other support, because we don't have now structures on the compound.
The school is now calling for well-wishers to come to their aid as they seek to rebuild. Ivy Wangulu, Lookuptv.
Now, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, CABS, and the Anti-Counterfeit Authority have jointly rubbished claims that a counterfeit and contaminated rice was released into the Kenyan market under unclear circumstances. Responding to the queries by the Trade and Investment Committee of the National Assembly, the 2 agencies have noted the release of the said rice was given the green light after undergoing all the required quality tests and assurances. On return with more.
After one of the local media houses published information that implicated the Kenya Bureau of Standardization (KEBS) and the Anti-Counterfeit Authority in an alleged release in the market of counterfeited and contaminated rice held at the port of Mombasa, the 2 government agencies were summoned by the Trade and Investment Committee to shed light on the matter that has now gained public attention. First on the chopping board was Robbie Njoroge, the CEO of the Anti-Counterfeit Authority, who strongly dismissed the allegations as malicious.
The articles published on August 25, 2023 contained sensational and misleading information that has the potential to tarnish the reputation of the authority and its officials unfairly.
Maintaining the integrity of the authority in the whole process, Njoroge is adamant the rice in question was certified fit for human consumption after being subjected to rigorous quality tests by a number of government agencies.
The rice importation was subjected to rigorous scrutiny and evaluation by reputable government agencies, including the Kenya Bureau of Standards, Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, KEPHIS, and the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority. These agencies, acting within their statutory mandates, confirmed that the imported rice was fit for human consumption contained in their respective analysis report.
Njoroge's statement corroborated by the Kenya Bureau of Standardization Acting Managing Director Esther Ngari. Ngari insisting the rice was in the country legally and that it was fit for human consumption at the time it was released in the market.
Upon review of the test report, it was established that the rice complied with the requirements of Grade 1 requirements of KS-EAS 128-2017 Kenya Standard Specification for milled rice.
The two agencies have attributed the misleading information released by the said media house to infighting and competition between two business entities.
The sequence of events that led to the seizure of the rice commenced on July 26, 2022, when Capwell Industries Limited formally complained with the authority. The crux of their grievance revolved around allegations of intellectual property abuse, prompting the authority to initiate an investigation and subsequently seize the entire rice consignment on August 31st, 2023.
Henry Tende, Lookuptv.
Let's move on then. President William RUTO has lauded a new resolution approved by the United Nations Security Council authorizing a foreign security mission to intervene in Haiti. RUTO said that the hopes the multinational security support mission Kenya is leading will provide a different footprint in the history of the international interventions in Haiti.
On the 21st of September, I stood before the General Assembly of the United Nations to express the case for the United Nations Security Council to deliver a framework that would facilitate the deployment of a multinational security support mission to Haiti as part of a holistic multilateral response to the challenges faced by the nation. The resolution marks an important moment in the history of global multilateralism as we engage in international collective action that places human security and dignity at the same level as state security and sovereignty and enables the nations of the world to discharge a collective moral duty of securing justice and security for all peoples of all nations. The people of Haiti, our dear friends, today stand in need. It is our fundamental moral obligation to be their friend indeed by standing with them. Our nation possesses excellent international peace mediating, peacemaking, peace building, and peacekeeping credentials. From East Timor and the former Yugoslavia to Eritrea and Angola, all the way to Sierra Leone, we have always stood ready and willing to do our part to bring peace, security, and stability.
The long wait is finally over for Senator Gloria Oruoba, who made a comeback to the Senate Assembly sanctions after weeks of suspension. Senate Speaker Amasana Kingi explained that the Assembly received an order from Machakos Court to allow her back to the House, an issue that didn't settle well with the other senators. Let's take a look.
Minutes after she set her feet in the Senate Assembly, a looming strike was silently gaining attention in Kawangware, Nairobi County, where a group of women were lauding nominated Senator Gloria Oroba's efforts in championing for the welfare of the girl child. Chanting while carrying placards, they claimed that Oroba should be given a chance to work.
Na kuomba spika kwa unyenyekevu kama mumama, tafadhali ruhusa Glory afanye kazi. Muruhusu afanye kazi. Kwa sababu Glory anatuletea mama mashinani always. Munataka nini?
Nonetheless, the senator was not welcomed in the assembly as she expected. Several senators addressing the House were claiming that they do not understand on what legal grounds had Gloria come back.
There is somebody sitting just on the left side of Senator Kamau Murango that I want you to tell us whether the person is sitting there as a member of this House as considered right now.
Oroba was suspended from the House for 6 months after the senators adopted a decision made by the Powers and Privileges Committee. Now Senate Speaker Amason Kingi will rule on Wednesday whether the nominated senator will be accepted back into the House after Machakos Court quashed her suspension.
She moved by way of judicial review to challenge the decision of this House. That matter is pending. While the matter is pending, she managed to obtain restraining orders, conservatory orders, that whatever decision this Senate made, that decision remains stayed until further orders of the court.
However, distinguished senators have said that the decisions of the entire House should not be dictated by a court, since the two are independent bodies.
You have been asked as the Speaker of the Senate by the courts. Allow me to remind you, Mr. Speaker, sir, that it was never your decision. It was the decision of the plenary. And if the decision of plenary must be vacated, it can only be vacated because a motion has been moved to vacate that decision of the House.
Ruga Ival, Lookuptv.
Police in Nakuru are holding 16 suspected criminal gang members after an intense sting operation Monday night. Authorities have revealed that the suspects were picked from Kaptembwa and Ronda slums after a tip from the members of the public. Guy Laluda now reports.
For a long time, criminal gangs in Kaptembwa and Ronda areas in Nakuru have been terrorizing residents. Today, however, following a tip from members of the public, 16 gang members were arrested following an intense operation led by County Commissioner Samuel Ndenya.
Tumekuwa na operation ambayo imekuwa ikiendelea, lakini jana tumeweza kufanikiwa kushika wahalifu 10 ambao walikuwa wamezuiliwa hapa Nakuru Police Station na 6 kule Ronda Police Station. Wote wamefika hapa, wote kwa ujumla ni 16 ambao tuko nao hapa. Tumeweza kuwashika na vifaa tofauti, vifaa butu, imitation za bunduki, those are toy pistols. Tumeweza kuwashika na visu, bangi na vifaa za kutumika kusokota bangi, vifaa mingi tu ambazo tumeweza kuwashika nazo. So tuko hapa, kesho watakuwa nafikishwa kotini na hii operation itaendelea. Kumekuwa na mambo hapa na pale kusema magengo yamerudi, lakini nashukuru wananchi wameweza kutupa taarifa kwa wakati ufaao na tumeweza kumove the speed, na ndio maana tumefanikiwa kupata hawa 16.
Ndenya has now appealed to residents to be more observant of their surroundings and report suspicious activities to security agencies promptly.
Kama mtu akiwa na uoga kupiga report pale katika kituo cha polisi kuwa hiyo taarifa itamgeukia, wanipigie simu. And I think they're safe when calling me. I operate in an open office policy, so I'm reachable.
Aludagel, Lookuptv, Nakuru County.
All right, let's move on to the next story this morning. As the debate on the audit of the 2022 general elections intensifies, UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala now says the ruling party will not support auditing of the 2022 general election. The 2022 election audit was one of the demands by Azimio leader Raila Odinga as he called for nationwide anti-government protests.
Again, there is no need for introduction on our part.
Speaking on Tuesday at the Bomas of Kenya during the presentation of the UDA submissions to the National Dialogue Committee, Malala said the issue of the 2022 elections was already cleared.
It's first that on the issue of the 2022 elections, we are not in support of any audit. We are supporting the enactment of the Constitution, which provides for, if you think that the 2022 general elections were not fair enough, the provisions of the Constitution are very clear that you have an opportunity at the Supreme Court to go and challenge the decision of IBC. That was already done, and we are saying that that is water down the bridge. That is the position of Kenya Kwanza, that we are not opening up for any audit as pertains to the 2022 general elections. However, we are saying that we are open to discuss and audit the electoral process of Kenya because we need to be as fair as possible in the subsequent elections.
Malala, however, says UDA supports the entrenchment of the Prime Cabinet Secretary's office and the office of the Leader of the Opposition, adding that it will ensure inclusivity.
Lastly, we are in support of the entrenchment and establishment of the two offices. First, the Prime Cabinet Secretary's office, we are supporting that it should be entrenched in law. And second, we are supporting the establishment of the office of the Leader of Opposition. These will ensure that we do away with the winner takes it all mentality after an election. We want our country to feel more inclusive.
We've been able to present on the 2-3 gender rule, and what we feel is that currently as we speak, in Parliament, we are not legally constituted as required as far matters to that gender rule is concerned. But I'm happy to state that the President, His Excellency, is really championing and ensuring that women have more numbers, both at an executive level and also at the Parliament level. We have a bill that is currently in Senate on the 2-3 gender rule. We also have another committee that has been constituted by Her Excellency Aisha Juma, the Cabinet Secretary, Matters Gender, including other stakeholders. And
the call to audit the 2022 election gained momentum after the clergy and the political parties liaison committee joined the push during submissions at the NADCO. PPLC said the audit will eliminate doubts about the results announced by IEBC. The bipartisan team on Monday agreed to have a law in place so that election servers are opened at the conclusion of a general election. Brian Amwai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has put on the spot 9 governors for prosecution of misappropriation of public funds. Speaking while appearing before the National Dialogue Committee on the final day of submission, as Stanley Lugaria now reports, the commission also sent a warning to those planning to loot El Nino Emergency Fund.
The EACC Commissioner signaled to increase efforts in the process of curbing corruption in the country, indicating that so far it has 9 cases lined up against governors and is investigating more than 21 county bosses of public funds misappropriation.
The point we only want to demonstrate with this video, look at that citizen and the violence being visited upon him. A very sad day indeed for our republic.
EACC has further warned the state officers who have lined to siphon funds from the El Nino emergency kitty and now says plans are underway to ensure all the processes are duly followed to nab any ill plans. Submissions endorsed by Azimio coalition, who said waste of public funds is a chronic problem in the Kenya Kwanza government that needs to be addressed.
Kwa leo niliona kwa gazeti wakisema hii mafuriko hata kwa makali sana. Sasa tulikuwa tumeona kwa magazeti counties na serikali kuu wanaanza kupanga mikakati ya kutumia pesa. Na vile Bishop amesema kuangalia ile matukio ya zamani yaliyotokea. Kukiwa na mambo kama haya, kumekuwa na uhalifu ama mpango wa kuiba. Ile inaitwa kwa kizungu wrong prioritization of programs. Yaani mipango inapangwa si kulingana na mahitaji ya vile hii hatari itakuwako. Ni mipango inapangwa kulingana na tutakula vipi hizi pesa. Sasa sisi tumewaandika kuambia lazima wakipanga ile mikakati yote wafuate zile taratibu zote za kutafuta sabuni, tenda na kila kitu ifanye kulingana na sheria zile ambazo zimewekwa na serikali upande wa mambo ya procurement na mambo ya fedha.
Others who appeared before the NADCO included National Parliamentary Caucus, who won the introduction of 11 and 27 extra counties and constituencies respectively during their presentation to enhance service delivery to the residents.
Tumewasilisha maombi ya kuwa kamati hii ya dialogue iweze kuzungumzia na kutekeleza na kuweka maanani haya maombi yetu ya kuwa jamii ya Itaso wanastahili wapate county, kwa sababu ukiangalia population watu wanatoshea, ukiangalia mambo ya culture, utamaduni wetu kama Wateso tuko tofauti kabisa.
Inaturuhusu ya kwamba boundaries za counties zinaweza kufanyiwa review, yani kuangaliwa upya na counties zingine zinaweza zalishwa.
Now comes the second phase of the committee together with the technical team to hack into the proposals as presented by the public so as to find a solution anchored on the 5 points as raised and discussed during submissions. All eyes focusing on the report they will prepare and submit to Parliament in less than 60 days as approved by the two houses.
Today marks the end of oral submission of the ongoing bipartisan talks at the Bomas of Kenya. Now focus shifts to both the technical and the dialogue teams, whose retreat is imminent to go draft a report to be submitted to the August House. Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv at the Bomas of Kenya, Nairobi.
Now, President William RUTO has given a directive that will see all ministries reduce their 2023-2024 expenditure by 10%. RUTO issued the directive during a cabinet meeting held at State House Nairobi. As Ian Kitani now files, the move comes as the country continues to grapple with the harsh economic times witnessed across the globe.
With no light at the end of the tunnel, and as Kenyans continue to pay the price amid tough economic times, President William Ruto's administration has been on the spot over its spending, with many Kenyans questioning why the government would spend billions of money on avoidable things, top among them overseas trips. While chairing a cabinet meeting today, President William Ruto has ordered all ministries to cut their spending by 10% in the 2023-2024 financial year amid tough economic times, while emphasizing on the need for the ministries to exercise prudence in their spending, a move that is seen as an attempt to rescue an already leaking economy. The directive comes after the government also announced the restriction of delegations accompanying the president, his deputy, the first lady and the prime cabinet secretary on foreign trips, with the chief of staff further banning all non-essential foreign travels, including benchmarking and capacity building initiatives, in a bid to cut on unnecessary spending. The head of state also cautioned government officials who bypass the use of a unified payment system, while underscoring the importance of better oversight. In a bid to support farmers, the cabinet has approved the setting aside of 4 billion shillings to purchase maize from farmers amid the onset of El Nino rains, with the government noting the importance of supporting farmers in drying and storing their produce to mitigate post-harvest losses. As Kenya prepares to co-host the African Cup of Nations in 2027, the cabinet has today approved the construction of a new 60,000 capacity stadium, with the Kasarani, Nyayo and Kipchoge Keino stadiums handed to the military for renovations ahead of the Continental Showpiece. Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
Nearly 100 students from St. Teresa, a Reggie Girls High School in Kakamega, have been hospitalized in several health facilities following an outbreak of a mysterious disease in the school that has left students with a leg paralysis. Beatrice Kahega with the details.
Tuesday morning, parents and health officials stormed St. Teresa Girls High School in Kakamega County following an outbreak of an illness that is yet to be disclosed. The students are said to have suffered from knee pain, making it difficult for them to walk.
Wanafunzi walianza na shida ya kuumwa na miguu kutokea kwa magoti, alafu wakashindwa kutembea, hawatembei vizuri. Kutoka hapo wakapelekwa kwa hospitali.
Reports from the school indicate that affected students have been taken to different hospitals in the county. Additionally, Kakamega County CEC for Health Bernard Wesonga has stated that samples from the affected students have been collected and are set for laboratory tests to determine what is ailing the students.
Tuko na wanafunzi 95. Kuna wanafunzi 20 wenye wako kwa hospitali ya Iguhu. Kuna wanafunzi 30 wenye wako kwa hospitali kuu ya Kakamega County, na tuko na wanafunzi 31 wenye wako Mukumu Mission Hospital, na tuko na wanafunzi 14 wenye wako Shibwe Hospital.
The Regional Director of Education, Jared Obiero, who early in the day held a meeting with parents, has urged them to exercise patience while assuring them that the affected students are being attended to fully.
We have all agreed that we are not taking our children home. They are going to be managed from here, and we are giving commitment together with the county government health department that we are tutaishughulikia. We are going to make sure that children are treated, they are taken care of, and we give information and corresponding messages to the parents as required.
Chukua sambuli ya damu, mikojo, kinyesi kupeleka kwa laboratories za Kisumu na Kemri, Nairobi. Tunangoja matokeo yake kuanzia kesho, na ndio tujue hasa kiini ya hii ugonjwa ni gani.
Beatrice Kageha, Lookuptv.
So there's a lot that is going on in the country that we're going to talk about this morning. Yesterday we did host Senator Gloria Oroba, who specifically told me that she's not fighting the Senate. Well, she went back. Majority of senators were not happy to see her in that house. We're going to play for you those clips this morning. Other than that, the azimio side and the Kenya Kwanza side are essentially just fighting now. There's a gameplay that is going on the sidelines of the Bomas of Kenya negotiations. On Monday, both of them missed. Was it on Friday? On Friday, both of them missed those particular sanctions. No show. Yesterday, they fought again on one issue: reconstitution of IBC and the audit of the 2022 general elections. So which way is that? This morning we talk about that plus many other issues that we are waking up to this morning as a country. Right here we're going to be joined shortly by Jackson Kailengwe, who's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, also a partner at NML Advocates LLP. We're also going to be joined by Fanya Mambo, who's a lawyer, and John Wanguyu, who's a political analyst. Be involved and Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. The hashtag is The Morning Drift. Once we come back, the conversation begins.
Enjoy a getaway this Mashujaa weekend from as low as 14,000 shillings. Pamper yourself and your loved ones with 10% discount on spa facilities, live kids animators and activities, karaoke Friday and live DJ entertainment. For reservations and enquiries, call 0709 070 000.
There is a biblical quotation that says, whoever gives to an orphan lends to God. Today was a great day for us. We have received and hosted a wonderful and great team from Tatua Tatu who have come to make a day brighter for these kids and for our beneficiaries.
I thank you, Tatua number 3, for coming
May God bless you, and the gates of Rafiki are ever open, and you are welcome and welcome again.
Are you looking for experts in waterproofing systems, concrete admixtures, flooring systems, refurbishment solutions, roofing, sealing and bonding, and building finishing systems? Look no more, as Sika Kenya got you covered. With over 113 years of experience, we offer our customers a comprehensive one-stop shop experience and the best technical support. Our products are available in all leading hardware stores and building merchants across the country. Call us today on 0711 140 232 or 0786 140 834, or email us on sales@ke.sika.com. Sika Kenya, building trust.
Want to expand your business today or attend to an emergency? Gsort na Logbook Loan, a business loan solution that allows you to leverage your logbook as security, making the application process both efficient and easy. You can borrow up to a maximum of 1 million shillings, processed within 24 hours with a repayment period of 24 months. All you need is your original logbook, original ID and KRA PIN, 6 months bank statement to M-Pesa statement, and comprehensive insurance. For more details, visit any of our branches near you today or call us on 0709 692 000 or send an SMS to 20103 at no charge. Juhudi Kilimo, investing in farmers, transforming lives.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your #1 show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home.
When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served.
Let's go! Let's go!
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lilima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lelima,
Ian Keitani, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Praise the Lord and Bwana Yesu asifiwe sana. My name is Pastor Joseph. I'm from a ministry called Reconcilers World. God gives strength to the weary. I am, Jesus is speaking. He says, I am the door. Then he says, anyone who enters in through me will be saved. The Lord is my shepherd or shepherd. Then he says, I will always have everything I need. God desires to guide you. He's telling you that this day, don't just trust the Lord, but he's telling you, trust the Lord widely.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your #1 show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home.
When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served.
Let's go! Let's go!
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
Karibu mtazamaji kwenye kipindi cha jamii na itikadi.
Kaini kitako tuna mengi.
Mapenzi yanapoanza watu huitana baby na majina mengine matamu matamu, lakini baadaye penzi linapogeuka na kuwa shubiri,
mtu anafikia kwenda kumtafuta mke mwingine.
Itakuwaje?
Yule wa kwake nyumbani labda hajamridhisha.
Ni sawa ama vipi Malkia?
Dadangu, wanaume ni kama maembe.
Huyu mwanamume atakuja abadiliki.
Mwanaume mwenye wanawake wengi hata katika uchumba, kwenye ndoa ataendelea. Mtu na tabia yake hawachi. Ile umbo la kike likishaanza, kila kitu kishaanza kuwa mahali pake.
Ningependa kukuona.
Sijaenda mahali ambapo mimi nilisikia mtu ati huyu alikuwa shujaa, alikufa katika mstari wa mbele wa ndoa. Sijawahi sikia mimi.
All right, thank you very much for still sticking with us. You're watching The Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Simple things, essentially, when it comes to understanding what is going on at the Bomas of Kenya. We're going to touch on those particular issues. And it's a good thing that I'm with Jackson here, a man who says we should never have conversations on the ongoing process at the Bomas of Kenya. But maybe this morning, we're going to convince him once we give him the details of exactly what has transpired since last week up to where we are right now, because it touches on one that is sort of agreed on the reconstitution of IEBC. All right, after that, now we do know that Senator Roba is back to the Senate despite protests from the rest of the senators in the building. And she said this, we spoke to her yesterday right here on the Morning Drift. She said, you see the way the affirmative action is designed, that all the nominated senators should have power in the Senate to come vote, and every time we stand up to raise proper issues that essentially should go into deliberation, we are viewed as people should not speak because we were never elected. And she said that that is exactly why she's been punished. But she's back, and we're going to listen to that. That plus many other issues around what the president essentially thinks about travel and expenditure in the country. Welcome then to the conversation. We're going to start like this then. Let's begin with that particular story on the Bomas of Kenya. And now there's a split then on the presidential audit. Now, as the debate on the audit of the 2022 general elections intensifies, UDS Secretary General Clovis Malala now says the ruling party will not support auditing of the 2022 general election. The 2022 general election was one of the demands by the Azimio leader Raila Odinga as it called for nationwide anti-government protest. Let's take a look at that once we come back, then table a conversation around it.
Again, there is no need for introduction on our part.
Speaking on Tuesday at the Bomas of Kenya during the presentation of the UDS submissions to the National Dialogue Committee, Malala said the issue of the 2022 elections was already cleared.
It's first that on the issue of the 2022 elections, we are not in support of any audit. We are supporting the enactment of the Constitution, which provides for, if you think that the 2022 general elections were not fair enough, the provisions of the Constitution are very clear that you have an opportunity at the Supreme Court to go and challenge the decision of IEBC. That was already done, and we are saying that that is water down the bridge. That is the position of Kenya Kwanza, that we are not opening up for any audit as pertains to the 2022 general election. However, we are saying that we are open to discuss and audit the electoral process of Kenya because we need to be as fair as possible in the subsequent elections.
Malala, however, says UDA supports the entrenchment of the Prime Cabinet Secretary's office and the office of the Leader of the Opposition, adding that it will ensure inclusivity.
Lastly, we are in support of the entrenchment and establishment of the two offices. First, the Prime Cabinet Secretary's office, we are supporting that it should be entrenched in law. And second, we are supporting the establishment of the office of the Leader of Opposition. These will ensure that we do away with the winner takes it all mentality after an election. We want our country to feel more inclusive.
We've been able to present on the 2-that gender rule, and what we feel is that currently, as we speak, in Parliament, we are not legally constituted as required as far matters to that gender rule is concerned. But I'm happy to state that the President, His Excellency, is really championing and ensuring that women have more numbers, both at an executive level and also at the Parliament level. We have a bill that is currently in Senate on the 2-that gender rule. We also have another committee that has been constituted by Her Excellency Aisha Juma, the Cabinet Secretary, Matters Gender, including other stakeholders. And
The call to audit the 2022 election gained momentum after the clergy and the political parties liaison committee joined the push during submissions at the NADCO. PPLC said the audit will eliminate doubts about the results announced by IEBC. The bipartisan team on Monday agreed to have a law in place so that election servers are opened at the conclusion of a general election. Brian Amwai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Good. So that's it. Fanyamambo is also in the building this morning. We're going to introduce him when that time comes. Let me start with you, Jackson. I like the way, last time we spoke about this issue, and you were like, hey, Bana, the more bigger issues that we need to talk about in this country, other than just that, the audit of the 2020 general elections. But let me just give you a bit of background as to where we are this morning. Friday, both the Kenya Kwanza side and the Azimio side, they failed to appear before that committee to make their presentations completely. So that session essentially was in a limbo. That particular day, nothing happened. Guys arrived at the Bomas of Kenya, nobody was there to make those presentations. Good. Yesterday, those members of the committee again clashed on 2 issues. Reconstitution of the IEBC, which, as you know, Jackson, right now, currently as it is, we have no IEBC. And that time for February is drawing closer and closer, because that's when we need to have a fully reconstituted IEBC that they can start their job as we look forward to 2027. Good. And then they also clashed on the 2022 general election results audit. But then what is interesting is that Cleophas Malala was no part of that committee, is saying where the party stands. Like, we, as the party, do not want that particular audit. And then a man who's outside the committee essentially is giving us the image of what is playing out at that particular discussion, where they're clashing on these issues that Malala, outside that particular committee, is making a pronouncement over. So Malala says, as a party, we do not want the audit of the 2022 general elections. Then all of a sudden, within that particular committee again, they clash on that particular issue. I know you stand on these issues, Jackson. Let's not talk about that. But then, if up to now, when we have 23 days left for that particular committee to make a draft so that we can rely on and get issues like the reconstitution of the IEBC essentially done and dusted with, so we can move ahead to start running affairs in this country, they're not even close to agreeing upon these issues. Doesn't that warrant this time, Jackson, for you to weigh in on it?
Yes, thank you, Simba, for having me, and good morning to our viewers. To react to what is going on, yes. First of all, you are talking of making a report. My guess would be that we are going to have 2 reports. Mm-hmm. We are going to have a minority report and we are going to have a majority report after the end of the discussions that are going on at Bomas. Because from the look of things, even a casual observer would easily tell that there are 2 sides of that so-called bipartisan committee. Yes. You see? And most of people who make appearance at before the committee, you could see that even the members of the committee are taking very, very partisan views when it comes to questioning and what I would call cross-examination. For example, yesterday you saw members who appeared to be pushing for audit of the 2022 presidential election results. They were being taken to hard task by members who are leaning the Kenya Kwanza, or rather Kenya Kwanza members of parliament or members of the committee. The same thing happened with the members who were making presentation that were opposed to things like audit. You could see the Kenya Kwanza members of the committee taking such presenters to hard task to explain, and therefore you could clearly see that there was a drift within the bipartisan committee, or the dialogue committee at Bomas of Kenya. And that one reinforces my position that actually we should not expect anything out of it, because first of all, you need to understand that this is just, as they call, national dialogue. It's a kind of national discourse, a forum where people appear to express their dissatisfaction, to express their displeasure with certain things, or to affirm certain things that they are happy about.
That we should not expect nothing.
We shouldn't expect anything, to be honest with you.
Even on the issue of IEBC?
No. And there is only one issue under discussion, if you are very keen about what is going on here. The issue is about the outcome of 2022 general election. Forget about these other things which are to flesh it up, like the cost of living and whatnot, the taxation, the whatever. All these things are just to give it some fat layer, but some thin layer of it. But the basis, or rather the main issue, the elephant in the room at Bomas, is this issue to do with the outcome of 2022 general election. And that's why you could see every time that issue came up, the members of that team were really rattled, depending on how the issue is presented. Yesterday we had the presentation by, I believe, the civil society. They were rooting for an audit and reconstitution of IBC and creation of some constitutional offices. And you could see the reception, for example, from one of the co-chairs, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. And it escalated to a level whereby they had to engage in some bitter exchange with Hassan Omar over the same. And therefore you could see that this is essentially a forum where people go to express their dissatisfaction. And therefore you don't expect any positive, any bipartisan resolution to come out of it.
Yes. I'll be coming back to you on that, Jackson, because you mentioned a very important point that like it's just the results of the 2020 general election that we're talking about here. John, I mean, from where you're seated, and I know your presentations around these issues, you've always told me that somebody seated somewhere essentially wants support for what they want to achieve in the government, and so they're presenting the opposition with a rope to hang, in the sense that, yes, come, let's talk about this. We're going to go to the referendum because we're talking about it. You have to support the referendum. At the end of the day, we as a government are essentially going to get what we want. But then, John, this gentleman, and I will tell you what it is now, you'll see the power play that is beginning to appear. Friday, the two sides didn't appear completely. Completely, John. When they were supposed to make presentations on these issues, they didn't appear. When they appeared, there were fist fights among them. Right now, you can hear Clopas Malala saying that we as a party do not support the audit of the 2022 general elections. Well, yesterday, they differed on the reconstitution of IEBC. So whether you like it or not, and John, your view is getting tested. And in this sense, that the opposition side has seen where the rope is. Fine, you're presenting for us a rope to hang. But we're going to give you trouble on these issues of the reconstitution of the IEBC, on the audit of the 2022 general elections. We have to agree, and it has to go away, whether you like it or not. John, it doesn't seem like it's a rope now, going by what I'm presenting to you.
Good morning, Simba. Morning to our viewers. I think my view has always been clear about the issue of the national dialogue.
Yes.
That when you look at the 5 issues that they sort of percolated them into, there's only 2 serious issues there. The issue around the creation or the embedment of the 2 offices, the PCS and the leader of opposition, one, and then about the funds. The rest of those matters, we're always going to end up in this situation. So I said, and I'm going to say it again for for clarity, that when you look at these talks and the way they are going, and of course from what Jackson has said, it basically confirms what I've always said, that this is a rope that was handed over to the opposition to hang themselves, and now they're realizing they've gone into this cul-de-sac without a way out. So what do we do? Yes, because at the end of the day, the agenda that these guys brought to the table were always never going to be prosecuted properly, because one, the issue of and I'm sorry to sound like I'm sort of echoing what Malala, the SG for UDA, said, that the issue of the elections is done and dusted.
Yes.
That's gone. The opposition should accept that fact. That's done and dusted. There is no way the winner and who is sitting in government to go back and then audit themselves.
John, but
they're never going to allow that. Yes, that John, is one. And then number two.
But that's why they're talking about it. They do not want to accept.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That the government will not allow, the Kenya Kwanza side will not allow an audit of the elections. That's done and dusted. The sooner we accept that fact, the better for everybody, and especially for opposition, so that they can do other things.
But that's why they're there. They're saying, good, do not tell us to accept. That's what we're here to talk about.
And that is why I'm saying, in my opinion, that they should accept that road is going nowhere. It's a cul-de-sac. It's a dead end. Yes. So instead of wasting time telling us to audit the elections, please don't do that. Do something else. Expend that energy and resources to do something else. That is one. Number two, last time I asked a question. If we know that from litigation, we know from jurisprudence, that the final result of the elections is Form 34A. And throughout all these conversations since the elections, nobody has ever impugned or impeached any single Form 34A. Leave the 34B and the Cs. We know that from the minor KI case, from the Supreme Court, from the High Court, from the Court of Appeal, that the final result is a Form 34A. So how do you audit? You audit by bringing a form. Say, for example, I usually use the example of Kileleshwa Primary School, a polling station there. Nobody has brought a form from Kileleshwa Primary School and said, actually what was posted on the portal, the IEBC results portal, or what was given to our agent, our presidential agent in Kileleshwa Primary School, or what was posted on the gate of Kileleshwa Primary School is different. So how do you audit then? Whatever is in the form, whatever is in the portal, if the IEBC says this is what is there, how are you going to challenge it if you don't have it? By their own admission, they never had agents in many of these places. So what are you saying? If I told you whatever is in the portal is final and is real, it's over a year since the elections, whatever had been posted on the gate of Kileleshwa Primary School is no longer there. School has gone on for a year and a half. So how do you do that audit?
John, somebody asked that we didn't have our agents because we were presented with a case that the election was going to be free and fair. So no need for agents to come in and actually look at the forms that are moving from this particular field to the portal. Now, since we've realized that indeed we needed agents and we didn't have them now, then let's go back and audit those forms that you have in the portal.
Exactly.
Somebody asked, then why are you telling us that we didn't have agents? That, you say I'm using your statement, Joe, just before I cross over to Fanya Mambo. That indeed, you guys were not even prepared for this election. And that's a statement that we've seen from the other side, and most particularly from the Kenya Kwanza side. You guys were not prepared for this election. You didn't even have agents on some of the polling stations. It was your mistake. You lost it because of disorganization. Somebody's going to ask you, why do we have to lose it because of a disorganization if the election was free and fair? That's what we want to audit.
There was an interesting statement, perhaps, I don't know, I'm happy that Jackson is here. Yeah. He's a lawyer also. I think there was a very interesting statement from either the Deputy Chief Justice or Smoky Wanjala, who said that it is your responsibility as participants in an election or in a contest to make sure that you do all the necessary preparations and you organize yourselves to ensure that it's actually free and fair. It is not the responsibility of the court. It is not the responsibility of us as Kenyans. It is you as a contestant to make sure that you organize yourself and plan and make sure that you have controls which enables you, like I said, if you were to be asked today to impeach Form 34A, even a single one, leave alone the 46,000 plus, just a single one from one polling station saying that this is different from what was posted on the portal.
John, fine.
Then how do you do it? How do you do that audit?
John, fine. But that particular statement again can also be tried and tested in the sense of what is the responsibility of IEBC as well?
The responsibility of the IEBC is to oversee any election in this country.
And so what we're questioning,
and then that is one. And then number two, they have a responsibility to keep the materials in case of these things that we are saying. That when we come to an audit, that it is possible to say, for example, there's a problem again in an election in a certain ward. So if the court deems that there were irregularities and says you have to do a recount, for example, it is upon the IEBC to present those materials. That is why after the elections, the materials are sealed in a box and preserved and put in a secure place so that you can always come back to audit.
That's it.
Yes, but how do you audit, like I said, how do you audit something that you don't have? So whatever you're going to be told will always be the facts, will always be the truth. So how do you do it? And then lastly, there is a question of what guarantees do we have once the audit has been done, both parties are going to agree, and who is going to do this audit? And how is it? You know very well that we are a very, very partisan country, very, very divisive, especially when it comes to the elections. So who is this person who's going to do an audit and then give a report, and then Kenya Kwanza will be like, azimio will be...
Is that not what
it will never ever happen?
Is that not what
so
we
that's
should...
why I'm saying we are wasting time.
In a dialogue conversation, John, is that what we should not be agreeing on? That this audit will be done by so and so and so. Here's the thing, Fanya Mambo, let me bring you to the conversation. John, every time I've spoken to you, I've sort of taken your position. I've tended to agree with your views. I say, but it looks as if somebody somewhere is presenting a rope for the opposition to hang themselves. But out of the events we're seeing, Fanya Mambo, is that the opposition is also realizing, guys, this is a rope. So how do we wiggle ourselves out of this rope? Now they're saying, good, guys, that audit of the 2022 general elections, let's talk about it. Fanya Mambo, help me understand. Why is it that the Kenya Kwanza side, every time they get an opportunity to speak about this issue that is on the dialogue committee, are always saying, no, we are not talking about that. We are done and dusted with the election. Let's speak about other issues. Fanya Mambo, we've agreed that we're going to talk about the audit of the 2022 general election. So why don't we talk about it? Why don't we talk about it? It's an issue. Why can't we talk about it as opposed to saying, no, this one, which we agreed is going to be an issue, now again, once it's on the table, we ain't going to talk about it. Fanya Mambo.
Many thanks, thank you. I urge my two friends here, other than enjoying the benefit of having a cup of hot water, once in a while it's good to visit Bomas. I spent my whole day yesterday there.
Yes.
And I have been there before because a lot of national discourse is taking place at Bomas. We have seen submissions, wonderful, beautiful submissions from the Federation of Kenya Employers. Unfortunately, KOTU has been fornicating with government. They are no longer there. They were not represented. Atuoli didn't come. They did send representation, but workers were waiting for representation. I have seen very good submissions from the women representatives. I have seen them talk about the 2/3 gender rule. There have been representations on abuse of human rights, abuse of the constitution. Like now, our country wants to take our policemen to Haiti. The law is clear in Kenya. We have a police act that says, this is cap 100 of the laws of Kenya, that the police are deployed to work within the boundaries of Kenya and they can work. And now I think Haiti has become part of the boundaries of Kenya and so on and so forth. So there were powerful, beautiful submissions that would actually build this nation. Unfortunately, for one reason or the other, our wonderful fourth estate has a way of switching off cameras when people who they think are not very important are making presentations. And so that when a politician of great repute comes and picks up the mic, then the media, kind of, all the cameras come on, you see a rush, because Kalonzo Musyoka has come in, because Kimani Ichung'wah has come in. Jana Ferdinand Waititu came, he didn't have an appointment, but he was accorded. And he gave a very interesting spanner. He threw a very interesting spanner in the works when he talked about his impeachment. And he said, you know what, by the way, for example, I was impeached, but the people who wanted to impeach me are not the people of Kiambu. They are MCAs, and the bulk of those MCAs are not back. So why am I still outside, and why am I still not being allowed to vie, whereas a clique of a few MCAs who threw me out are also out, the ones who wanted me. So he raised a very important constitutional law question that everybody laughed about and thought, wait a minute, we had never looked at issues from this angle.
Yes.
Having said that, if you have nothing to hide, then you wouldn't be afraid. If today your wife comes and tells you, I suspect you have HIV/AIDS, will you tell them, we are never going to do a scan, we are never going to the VCT, we are not going to talk about it? I think the correct thing is to tell your wife, let us go to VCT, let us do a test, let us do another one after 3 months, let us check whether I truly have HIV and AIDS. But when you come and say, we want this election, we want it fair and square, and we do not want an audit, we do not want a conversation around it, then what it means is that there's probably something very wrong with your head. As we speak right now, Jubilee, what he's saying is untrue. Jubilee came and they showed the particular forms that came from polling stations, vis-a-vis the forms that were pulled from the IEBC portal, vis-a-vis the forms that some international observers ended up sharing internationally, and there were huge discrepancies. I'll also tell you that the bombers of talks are not a rope for the opposition to hang themselves. Mm-hmm. The first person who so desperately needs these talks is President William Ruto himself. This government wants to sanitize, and you've heard Malala speak on TV today, or yesterday for that matter, about the office that is held by Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, because it's an amorphous office. So this government does want to fix that amorphous office in the Constitution. This government is hell-bent on making sure, making sure that we have a leader of official opposition in this country. This government is desperate to increase the presidential term limit to 7 years, and they are not shy about it. This government is desperate to, if they had the chance to tax us everything and leave us to beg from them after they've taxed from us. And all these things are ways they are finding ways they can enshrine that in the Constitution. And so I can tell you the government needs these talks more than you think, and more than the opposition needs these talks. And they know that Mudavadi's position without bombers will become a useless position. They know that they will not be able to, let me tell you, in a proper working democracy, the official leader, the leader of majority in parliament, and by the way, he's occupying that position, though this matter is in court, illegally, is not supposed to be doing what Kimani Ichung'wah is doing, because now he's acting like he runs parliament, which is not supposed to be the case. That's the speaker's job. Then we have another biased speaker, and the speaker is supposed to be a neutral person in our constitutional dispensation and how he runs things. He's just a Kenya Kwanza speaker. He's not a speaker of the National Assembly of Kenya. Mm-hmm. And that is why they are so desperate to have an official leader of opposition, so that the speaker continues to be a Kenya Kwanza speaker. And the leader of majority continues to be a leader who is running the Kenya Kwanza agenda. And so for me, for anyone to think that these talks are going to help the opposition, no. And for anyone to think that these talks are going to pacify the opposition, no. I can tell you the government desperately needs these talks and is using these talks to try and bring those funny things. And by the way, they will fail so badly with a 7-year term.
That's it. Pretty much. John, you have so much on your court, but I just want to give this to Jackson. For the very first time, I'm happy Fanya Mambo is here, so that you could actually prove to him then why this is just a rope for the opposition to hang itself. Good. Jackson, you back at it again. Here's the thing, you hear what Fanya Mambo is saying. Those issues that are getting raised at the bombers of Kenya, they are quality issues. But then, Jackson, are you speaking from the perspective that we didn't agree that indeed, if at all we're going to have a draft from the bombers of Kenya, it is going to be a draft that is anchored on law, in the sense that if by any chance that committee gets to decide, we're going to have to split the constituencies, or have more constituencies in the country, or split some of the counties that we have here, then if by any chance it gets through, that it becomes an issue that both houses have to go back and decide upon. That once they decide on a cost of living, the Employers Federation was actually presenting to them, talking about how the percentage of the pay slips now is essentially unlawful by what the labor laws in this country are stating because of the taxation levels now, that there will be something that will be taken to the National House and listened to. So we can't say that they're not important. They're as important as they can be, Jackson.
Yes, Simba, I think, let me pick from where my friend Fanyamamba has left.
Yes.
I think it is unfortunate, and it has been quite unfortunate to see very eminent persons appearing before this committee and make very powerful presentations. For instance, I saw a guy I have tremendous respect for, the jurist and former Attorney General, Professor Githu Muigai, make very powerful and lucid presentation before the committee on the number of counties and the electoral units. But what I need to say that it's quite regrettable that we have had all these powerful presentations being made before a committee that is not going to achieve anything because of its how it's constituted. Because the Kalonzo Kimani committee, as you can see, and Kalonzo pointed it out yesterday that it was a presentation from one of their members, so to speak, and he said that these people should be given time to heal. You see, allow them to speak. I mean, it's a healing process. So in my view, I feel like what is going on at Bomas is a forum for people to heal, people to express their dissatisfaction. And it is lamentable that we are having very powerful and good presentation and proposals that are being tabled before a wrong forum. Because that is not the purpose. You see, the presentation that these people are making, including the people that Ifanya Mambo is supporting and the organizations, these are presentations which ought to be taken seriously. These are presentations which ought to culminate into some serious legislative proposals, bills or a referendum question. But if you look at the structure of the committee itself and how it's running its affairs, that's why I said, in my view, I expect a minority report, if at all they will be divided in basis of the numerical strength, and also expect the majority report. And the respective reports will be tabled before their respective political chiefs. You understand? So at the end of the day, after the tabling of those two reports, it will be status quo ante, as we say. The conditions that existed previously will still exist.
Yes.
But more importantly is this. It's not about hiding something, as my friend will want to put it. It's about allowing constitutional processes to come to an end. Election is a process, and just like every process has got a beginning and an end. We can't be in this vicious cycle forever, where we do an election is disputed, we go to the judiciary, we scale the justice all the way to the highest judicial authority, pronouncement is made, and then we fall back to where we began. We start this so-called vicious audit. You see, so the audit, by the way, the law prescribes that the IBC has got the mechanism of doing its internal audit. And once it has done its internal audit, it tables a report for national dialogue. And from that report, now we can engineer some reforms if we feel there are reforms to be done. So that one is provided under the law. But the audit that is being championed by the azimio side, it's regrettable and it's understandable at the same time, because you see, losing an election that was hotly contested, I mean, it is devastating. I'm sure this is something that really stung them. They did not expect it. And it's a nightmare, so to speak. So sometimes you can understand where they're coming from. They are struggling to come to terms with the reality that they lost such a closely contested election. And you see, we cannot force them to accept at once. We also need to give them time, a period. That's why I feel also that even the constitution of this committee was done hurriedly. I mean, these fellas needed some time to heal. It's a healing process, Simba. I mean, if you look at the way these guys had psyched themselves up, I mean, all indications pointed to the fact that they were going to have this thing. And then suddenly, whatever happened, happened, and they missed it. So it is something that we also need to look at it in that context. But when it comes to the legal aspect of it and the structure of our democracy, you see, democracy is an unruly horse. And sometimes you can champion for democracy, like the former Prime Minister. I really believe he has done a lot in terms of championing for democratic ideals in this country. But as I said, democracy is a double-edged sword. You can use it against your opponent, but at the same time, your opponent can use it against you, depending on where the numerical strength is. So, for example, in my view, in 2022 general elections, despite the fact that the former Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Odinga, had played a very pivotal role in the development of our democratic state, it was so unfortunate that the same democracy worked against him. And you see, this is the reality that we have to live with. We can lament about it, we can debate it, we can try to argue about it and tell whoever managed to open this server or open this portal or bring that form, but we can't change it, you see. And what we need to do is to ensure that as we move forward, how do we strengthen our institutions to the extent that now it doesn't matter who is on the other side? Because truth be told, and it has been a perception that it's very difficult for a government-leaning candidate to lose an election. But you see, 2022, in all fairness, you can see, and it's clear that the person who was leaning on the side of the government lost an election.
Jackson, once we come back from this tiny breather, it will be up to John then to prove to Fanyamambo and our audience this morning as to why those negotiations are a rope for the opposition to hang itself. But there's a question that Fanyamambo asked that you guys have not really looked at. That indeed, it's not just about the 2022 polls that we're talking about in those negotiations or in that national dialogue. There are Kenyans who feel that there's a chance for us to talk about critical issues that this government and the previous governments have not really addressed in this country. That particular process, is it not just for the good of the country?
Yes. If you permit me to
guess what? Once we come from this break, my director is killing me in my ear that we gotta go for break. Once we come back, also answer the question of, did we get it wrong then? Why couldn't we deal with only those issues that those two sides raised? Once we come back from this break.
Are you a civil servant and looking for financial breakthrough? You can now apply for the salary check-off loan from Juhudi Kilimo, a solution that is available for salaried employees that have a check-off agreement with Juhudi Kilimo. All you need is 3 months latest payslips, a copy of your national ID, one recent colored passport photo and your KRA PIN. For more information, call us today on 0709 692 000 or send an SMS to 20103 at no charge. Juhudi Kilimo, investing in farmers, transforming lives.
Today we are hosting the RUTO Foundation as they do a food distribution to the community. The community involves people from Huruma. Huruma is where we have the home for the aged. So quite a population from the home are getting the gift packs. Most of our children come from Githogoro and Huruma. These are informal settlements. Honestly, these parents have not been working. The number of children that will come to me, even the ones who are not in school, and tell me, Mwalimu, we have not fed for 3-4 days, is quite huge. So this will go a long way. A family that has not fed for 3 days, they will at least get a meal. We also thank RUTO. This is the second time that you're coming, and it always makes a difference. It always makes a difference.
Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
As part of our service improvement strategies, the authority has adjusted its operating hours. In this regard, all NTSA banking halls and offices will operate Monday to Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Additionally, NTSA offices will remain open to the public on Saturday 30th September 2023 and Saturday 7th October 2023 from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. to enable number plate collection. We humbly request motor vehicle owners who have received message notifications on collections of reflective number plates to visit the centers they identified during the application process. For more information, visit our website at www.ntsa.go.ke. This information is brought to you by the Director General of NTSA. NTSA, keep our roads safe.
Are you looking for experts in waterproofing systems, concrete admixtures, flooring systems, refurbishment solutions, roofing, sealing and bonding, and building finishing systems? Look no more, as statehousekenya got you covered. With over 113 years of experience, we offer our customers a comprehensive one-stop shop experience and the best technical support. Our products are available in all leading hardware stores and building merchants across the country. Call us today on 0711 140 232 or 0786 140 834 or email us on sales@ke.sika.com. Sika Kenya, building trust.
Back to the morning drift. We're still on with this conversation. Jackson, I'm going to give you 2 minutes because the elephant in the room then is why this is a rope for the opposition to hang itself. And you're clearing on the sentiments of, and I asked you why we have so many issues that are on discussion at the Bomas Kenya. Could you take your 2 minutes before I give it over to you? Yes.
My take would be the reason why we have a lot of issues at Bomas of Kenya and people are finding it to be the perfect avenue to express themselves is that the national body that we established to be a forum for discourses, which is Parliament, has failed. So there is no avenue of somebody going to express his dissatisfaction about the governance, about the government, about any institution. You heard there was another person who made a very interesting presentation saying that the role of impeaching the president should be taken from Parliament and given directly to people. That is an indication that the Parliament has failed. And if the Parliament has failed, because initially from the structure of democracy and presidential system, you see, Parliament is supposed to be a forum of expressing representation of the people and expressing views and concerns of the people. But if you look at what is happening in our Parliament, you realize that that is not the case. There is no avenue. You can't sit here at 3 p.m. and feel comfortable watching the debate going on in Parliament because there is nothing going on in Parliament. If there is a bill, one side will be overwhelmingly supporting it, another side will be pouring water on papers. You see, so you find that especially the civil society community, which thrives on debates, robust debates, enriching debates, they find it impossible to trust Parliament as a forum of championing that debate. So they find that if they have an avenue like what is going on at Bomas, that is a good place to go there and express yourself and present your thesis and theories and whatever. And that's why a lot of people are really getting excited about it. But the thing is, we also need to look at the end. What do we expect out of it? You see, you can make a very powerful presentation. For example, as lawyers, you can appear in court and make a very powerful presentation, but maybe that court has got no jurisdiction. So all your presentations will go to waste. That is what's happening at Bomas. This is a forum run by individuals who do not actually even enjoy the support of their principals. You have seen Deputy President and the President. Both of them are on record. They are not opposing, they are not supporting what is going on at Bomas. So it doesn't matter how powerful presentation you want to bring to such a forum. So people are finding it to be perhaps in their view, to be the only forum where they can be heard. That's why they're flocking there.
I'll be coming back to you on that. John, there's a question that Fanyamambo asked. That are we going to sit here and pretend that the current government doesn't need these talks that are going on at the Bomas of Kenya?
Thank you. Before I comment on that or respond to that, he raises a very important issue that is from the field of psychology. There's something called post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, or what is called the stages of grief theory. That you start off with denial, then you move to anger, then you move to bargaining, and then negotiation, and then lastly acceptance. And what we can see clearly is what is happening with the losing side of these elections. Yes? So that is from a psychological sort of point of view, that something clearly is going on that these guys need help with, and it includes, remember, when you go for therapy, you sit in your seat there and you talk to a therapist and you tell them. You don't need therapy, is it? Exactly. All these things are therapeutic. It's part of the therapy, or it is therapeutic in the sense that it helps for people to discuss these issues. We are not saying that there are no problems in this country. There are serious problems. We've always said that. And they're coming from the economic side of things. That families are really hurting. People are going through stuff. Businesses are shutting down, and so on and so forth. And then you've got a government that keeps on increasing taxes and so on and so on. That's a valid point. But by sitting around a table and discussing those issues that we are discussing at the Bomas of Kenya, we are not saying that they're invalid presentations. These are very, very valid arguments and presentations being made by Kenyans at the Bomas of Kenya. But what we are saying is we are simply giving the government an opportunity to push its agenda, thinking that we are discussing our own issues, but in reality it is government. Because remember, let's go back to the origin or the genesis of the talks. The government pushes for, we start off with maandamano, and then they agree to talk. And then you remember the statement that set up the national dialogue or that platform came out on a Sunday, you remember? It came out on a Sunday, and they said these are the 5 issues that we've agreed to discuss. And then there was a huge backlash, and people said, we told you this is all about appeasing one man. Yes, and then of course the opposition came and denied straight away and said, no, we didn't agree to those 5 issues. Actually, we have our own 4 issues, and then they were combined, they became 9, and then of course the talk started, and then like I said, they were sieved and percolated into 5. And I've always insisted that of these 5 issues, only 2 are real, like proper ones. The embedment of those 2 offices and the funds. The rest of the cost of living, interfering with the other side. Yes? All those issues are known issues in the sense that the Constitution is very, very clear, and what we're pushing for is the rule of law, isn't it? In the general sort of philosophy, isn't it? So how do we work within the Constitution, yes, or within the law, to deal with all these problems that we have? Like Fanyamambo said, there were very, very beautiful presentations yesterday and the previous days by Kenyans. That is true. But the truth of the matter is, who brought these 2 issues that we are saying, the ones on embedment of the PCS and the leader of opposition? Who brought the issue of NGCDF and so on and so forth? It's the government. So it is true, whilst he makes the argument that government needs these talks more than the opposition, it is true because the substantive issues that are on the table actually favor government side. And that is why we are saying this is a rope given to the opposition to help push the government agenda. So you're sitting there, you're supposed to be in the opposition.
John,
you're supposed to be, let me finish our point. We are supposed to be in opposition, putting the government to account, not to push the government agenda. And that is why we said, we continued with that argument and made the argument that we're going to end up in a referendum somehow. So, are we going to have azimio and government on one side pushing for that for that referendum? Because if they were to agree on all those issues, the creation of an official position, it means azimio and government will be on one side. So who will be on the no side? 1. Number 2, do we have the resources immediately coming out on the back of an election? We know that financially we are not doing well. The president yesterday in the cabinet said government departments must cut 10% of their budget. So how do we navigate those waters? And then lastly, referenda are very, very tricky. And this is the reason why I've been saying this, that there is no way RUTO is going to allow for a referendum in his first term. Kibaki made that mistake in 2005. You see where it ended. David Cameron in England and the Brexit issue. He brought the referendum in 2015. He was thrown out. He was forced to resign because he lost that. So the president is well aware. Remember, he's a sharp guy. He knows these things. He knows Kenyans are hurting. He knows there's a lot of pain up and down the country. Nobody is negating that. It is real. But you put a referendum, the referendum is not going to be about the leader of opposition. It's going to be about my pocket, money in my pocket. And that is why referenda are always tricky, and that's why I've insisted there is no way government will allow for that to happen.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, Fanyamambo raised the issue of the audit, and he talked about Jubilee. We know that those are lies. I want him to revisit in his own free time, to just go and look at what happened in the Supreme Court. All these things were litigated. We got to a point where an embarrassing situation, my namesake, Gedongo, John, he actually tried to walk back on what he had presented about guys intercepting Ninis and so on and so forth. The registrar of the of the Supreme Court carried out an audit of the servers, and they were given access. Njoroge, the guy who was in charge of IT, the consultant for IT for Azimio, gave it, signed it off and said, actually, we agree with all the contents. Everything is fine. So why are we doing this?
Yes.
And then lastly, they are lawyers. There is a concept they use called functus officio. Within the law, all the avenues have been pursued and they've been settled. The Supreme Court has spoken. So why are we doing these things extra constitutional? And then, by extension, what does it mean for all the other many problems that we've got? Are we going to end up with a situation where we say, put the law to one side, the constitution to one side, and then we sit down and say, no, it can't happen.
John,
if we talk about rule of law, constitutionalism, let's stick with those maxims.
John, I want to take 2 minutes before I give it on to Fanyamambo.
Yep.
That if you yourself, you've essentially looked at that situation and said, in one way or another, we're going to end up in a referendum. Fine. Those gentlemen on that committee, you would like to think they also know that it is headed to a referendum. And if it's headed to a referendum, and that was the design by the government, to either go to a referendum or not go to a referendum, then the government needs something out of these negotiations.
Definitely, like I said.
So the question is going to be, if that is known clearly from both ends, what are they asking for the government to do?
That's why I called it BBI 2.0 last time. That you look at the issues that are being discussed at the moment, we'll definitely end up in BBI 2.0.
Yes.
That the creation of new constituencies, the creation of those two offices and so on and so forth, is exactly what was in the BBI proposed, BBI 1.0. And we know that it was litigated all the way to the Supreme Court, and that matter was settled. One of the things that Fanyamambo has said, all these issues we're bringing to Bomas, of course they are very, very valid issues. But when you now come to thinking about how we are going to go about in a referendum, and remember one of the big questions that was litigated at the Supreme Court was, can you bring an omnibus sort of change of the law as a referendum? That was one of the sticking issues. Because remember, we're talking about all these different things that, of course, are valid, but the question is, how are we going to maneuver around them? How are we going to do it? If we're going to have a plebiscite on these things, how are we going to reconcile all these different issues? And then, again, like I said, Azimio are the ones who opened up the agenda and said, let everybody bring their agenda. Of course, under Bill of Rights, Chapter 4, that everybody has a right to their political thoughts, freedom of thought, freedom of association, and so on and so forth. So if we are opening these talks to all these different issues, creation of new constituencies, why are we apoplectic about, what's his name? Gerard Gay is suggesting about 7 years. Everybody has a right, and they're the ones who opened up the platform for everybody to bring their problems to this therapy session.
Pretty
much. He says, it's a therapeutic session, PTSD, guys are suffering, so how do we deal with these problems?
Fanyamambo, if you listen to this gentleman disconstructing your thought about whether these talks are important or not, let me give you a sign. Maybe you can help us read into that. On Friday, and Fanyamambo as well, you got to read into that as well, that, well, there's just a lot that is at stake, even as we say, well, they're not really that important. On Friday, both sides missed Fanyamambo. They missed. They were limbo when we're supposed to sit and hear exactly what the Kenya Kwanza side has and what the opposition side has. There was nobody who turned up for those presentations, essentially showing how emotive those discussions are. So completely missed. And number two, those gentlemen at the Bomas of Kenya, last week but one, they fought. Not the very first time. No, they fought on those critical issues at stake of presentation. And I asked you this question. Did we get it wrong? And maybe, could you then agree with John's view that by not ring-fencing the issues for discussion for Nyamambo, by saying, oh, it's an open national dialogue, even when we knew very well that the two sides had their issues that they were presenting, we essentially made a mockery of those discussions at the Bomas of Kenya? Because like John is saying, I mean, some of those issues, they need proper litigation process that we gotta go back to the National House for those guys who have the power then to make policies out of these issues that we're talking about. By talking about separating counties and dividing Kiambu into two counties, you're giving people without the power to do so much work to do, as opposed to talking about the office of the opposition and audit of the 2022 general elections.
I think, to start with, in this country, there are a few things that people need to appreciate. Those
Yes.
people who are coming up and saying that they would like to have Kiambu split actually into into three.
Yes.
Into three counties are very right. You see, if you find people eating food on a table, it is in them or ask for a portion than it is for you to say, because I don't want to eat, counties in this country have become the equivalent of what you would call Congress in the United States of America. Because after a president has garnered the total votes cast, you need 25% of the total votes cast in at least half of the counties. So what that tells you is that each county has got one vote in that, because they are counting the number of counties. President William Ruto, in his wisdom, his people in the lack of thereof, have decided to create Ijara County. They have decided to create some amorphous county. You create Kuria, you create Teso, you create counties that have less than 100,000 people. Kiambu, with 2.4 million people, we were suggesting it becomes 3 counties, so that each county has got 800,000, 800,000, 800,000. These people had suggested a list of, was it 11 or 12 counties?
Yes.
And none of those had anything close to 500,000 people. None of them. But Kiambu, they are comfortable with it being 2.4 million people. So the people of Kiambu suggested and said, wait a minute. Then let us also demand for these 3 counties, so that we either go there and they are all thrown out, or we get something. Because if you go there and say, let us not have these counties, I'm telling you, William Ruto is going to pass those counties. Because he's looking at 2027. And at 2027, he's well aware that there is a very high likelihood that the traditional 24 out of the 47 counties were needed will be a problem. So he can see the 50+1 might work for him, but he's not certain about the half of the counties. And that's why you have to create some amorphous counties like Teso, Ijara, and another one there called Kuria, and another one that you have to imagine called, was it Suba? They're there. Yeah. And the idea was simple, that this county, whether it has 70,000 people or 35,000 people, when the presidential election comes, it has 1 vote. But there's something that is even more painful about it. Once these counties that I'm calling amorphous, non-self-sustaining counties are created, they will each have 1 senator. A senator has a voted Senate, and they are voting now for allocation of resources to counties. So you find Kiambu with 2.4 million people represented by 1 senator. And then these funny counties they want to create with 70,000, 100,000 people also have 1 senator. Now you have 2.4 million people having only 1 vote. And then a region that can be amalgamated into 7 counties, na bado itafika population ya Kiambu having 8 votes. So it's unfair. So we have to either say we give everybody or we deny everybody. And for us, that conversation, as the people of Mount Kenya, we shall not relent on having that conversation. In fact, if there's one thing that shall bring down those bomber stocks, it is the denial of populous counties within Mount Kenya to have their rightful share of the national distribution of resources.
Is that the right place?
And we
for
have
that
always made
conversation,
it clear, because
is that the right place for that conversation?
Yes,
Just like
it is the right place, because I'll tell you this.
Yes.
First, we have parliamentarians who, once they were elected, changed their numbers. And every Mount Kenya parliamentarian, for information right now, have you had a memorandum coming from a Mount Kenyan parliamentarian who was elected on UDA ticket? William Ruto comes to Mount Kenya every other Sunday for interdenominational prayers, but the other places he goes to launch projects. Have you had a Mount Kenyan MP standing and saying that we want one man, one vote, 1 shilling? Have you had any people from Mount Kenya and an MP talking about our tea, our coffee, our roads, Mau Mau Road that's stalled? They are only talking about shida yetu ni Raila asiingie kwa serikali, hatutaki huyo mzee, ukimsalimia utatoa hii uvae huku. That is the kind of talk we are having in Mount Kenya.
What is
when you are talking about climate change
Yes.
at KICC,
Yes.
because for me it's very passionate. Our people in Mount Kenya, by the way, Murang'a is the source of some of the most permanent rivers we have in this country. But they had nothing to say about climate change. They waited for that week to go. Once it was over, they started saying, Raila hataingia kwa serikali, Raila ndio anatusumbua. Let me tell you, for this opportunity at Bomas, one of the first things it has done, if Kenya Kwanza is not aware, it has painted Kenya Kwanza for who they are. Because questions were raised on national TV and Kenyans watched, and answers were given, substandard answers on national TV, and Kenyans watched. And Kenyans said, wait a minute, the opposition actually appears to know more about government than government itself. And remember one time even the president told his ministers, I know what happens in your ministries better than you yourselves. So what has happened with Bomas, if Kenya Kwanza went into Bomas with a popularity rating of say 10%, because it cannot be more than 12.5, now they are probably standing at 7 or 3.25. So Bomas has had the effect of painting Kenya Kwanza as an incapable government. Has the opposition achieved? Yes. Even if Bomas was to end now, and everybody went home, what Bomas has done, it has given Kenya Kwanza an opportunity to defend itself and to show its true magnanimity, and they have failed finally. Kenya Kwanza came up as a government that was talking about the person at the bottom and what they are going to do for the person at the bottom. And they have failed, even in Bomas, to be able to paint the pictures of themselves as the people who were interested in the hustler. So what is the hustler saying today? Afadhali nani? Azimio. So I think if there's anybody who has lost at Bomas, it must be Kenya Kwanza.
That's it. But just before I bring in Jackson, that's it.
And that's a very real issue.
Yes.
Very, very valid. And that is why I'm saying that given such issues, that is what the conversation should be.
That's it.
But not about the audit.
But then fanya mambo. But
how do we maneuver and ensure, like he's saying, which is a valid question, you have Kiambu, you have Thika constituency, for example, which is bigger than, in terms of population, bigger than Wajir or Mandera County. How is that even possible? A constituency, the population is bigger than a whole county.
But some wards in Juja are bigger than some counties.
Yes, exactly. And that is why I'm saying that's a valid.
Rirota ward here has 60,000 voters.
But now, how are we going to have that conversation if we're talking about auditing an election?
That's it. Some question that I wanted to put to Fanya Mambo, just before I cross over to Jackson this morning. You see, those are the pertinent conversations that we are going on at the Bomas of Kenya.
Yes.
Then, did we get it wrong, Fanya Mambo? In the sense that that is not the right place for those conversations. Just like Jackson was saying, I was like, wow, guys, this is not the right place. Because all of a sudden, we know what those guys are fighting about. It is a 2022 audit of the election results. Done. These are the issues. They seem to agree.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
When you are fighting and when you're in a position, is there a wrong place to paint your enemy as bad? I mean, right now, TikTok is awash with short videos of presentations at Bomas. Right now, people are sitting in the comfort of their sitting rooms and asking, yani mimi niliamuka asubuhi nikakosa kunywa chai nikavote Kenya Kwanza. People are asking themselves those questions. So this is a good opportunity to prosecute your case. Some people think that the case is won because the people who are there have got you have the jurisdiction
Yes.
that those people can do something about it.
Yes.
There are times when you wake up knowing very well that you may not exactly get exactly, because as we speak, that committee does not have the powers to implement what Kenyans are saying, because what some of the things that Kenyans are saying would affect the constitution in a very big way, and they would require a referendum. That committee does not have the powers to do that. But what it does, it has the powers to expose this government. That process in Bomas has got the power to change the mindset of Kenyans. And let me tell you, in the unfortunate event that an election was held today,
yes,
even in a ward, in fact, Kenya Kwanza has been praying for rainfall, which is good. They have invited another pastor, I don't know from where he's supposed to come and pray for us, because they've realized that the pastors they were dining with during the elections and going to their churches and abusing their altars are not fit enough to pray for Kenya, so they have had to get an international one whose altars have not been abused by the deputy president. What we are trying to say is that this Kenya Kwanza administration, if there's something they should pray for, is that a by-election does not occur within Mount Kenya. They should pray day and night that a by-election does not occur within places that they think they are strong. Even Nandi itself, you saw what those people are saying. Wanasema hata hatutaki hiyo miaka 7, tunataka 3. And those are guys who are not paid. It's a raw video. They're just doing it on their phone. They are not, you know, you cannot say they have been paid by a particular politician. You saw what happened to Akina Moses Kuria and company the other day. They went here to Juja and they were asking people kama wanapenda Ruto. It was such a raw video. You saw when the president went to Gatondo. I don't support the idea of heckling the president. It's actually wrong in the law. You cannot do that. But they did it. And they told him azimio, and they told him baba, and they were not paid, and they were not on a salary. If there's one thing that Kenya Kwanza should pray right now, is that a by-election does not happen anywhere close to Mount Kenya.
Yes.
Because it will be a shameful thing for them. So
yes,
Bomas is perfect. Bomas is working for the opposition, because what it has done, it has given people an opportunity to see government for what it is. And people are seeing it, and it's being interrogated, and it's giving all the wrong answers. And even when they are not in Bomas, they are busy telling us here to go and dig our own wells.
Yes, pretty much. Jackson, but I want you to weigh on this particular issue. And I want to take 2 minutes, because I also want to give John the 2 minutes to summarize this conversation this morning. Here's a question. Jackson, you can't sit here and then imagine that both sides haven't eventually figured the eventuality, that they've looked at both scenarios. In the event that we go to a referendum, in the event that we do not. And that's the question that I keep on asking you. They are as important as what the government needs from this. See what Fanya Mambo said, that the government needs its talks to succeed in whichever manner, because we do know if they do not succeed, and I'm acutely worried about these people keep on saying nothing will come out of it, nothing will come out of it. What will come out of it is taking Kenya back to the streets where we ran away from, isn't it? So that is important, that both of them know very well that these talks are quite as important as any. In fact, when you look at that importance, then you would like to sit as a Kenyan and say, if somebody wants this talk to succeed, it's the government, because they do not want a protesting nation. That's what they were running away from. So Jackson, could you please paint that picture? Why are you saying that hey, nothing's going to come out of it?
No, I think
that nothing is important.
I think I need to admit that listening to Fanya Mambo, I'm very sure a lot of things are coming out of Bomas.
That's it.
And you see, you can hear his presentation,
That's
and
it.
I think my view are getting reinforced. To say that what is going on at Bomas, it's a forum for discussion. And in any democracy, discussion is always allowed, because it's out of discussions that good ideas are birthed. And what we see on TV from Bomas, it's a confirmation that indeed dialogue and discussions are needed.
Yes.
Yes. But as to whether those discussions are going to yield anything really positive, anything substantive, anything that goes to the root of our constitutional structure, then that is a different debate altogether. From Fanya Mambo, of course, you see, is bringing the aspect of politics and the popularity and the electability of a certain leader, which is all perfect. I mean, we are political beings and we politic from morning to evening. There is no debate about it. But the issues that are being raised, for example, the issue of revenue allocation. You see, that is an issue that the Constitution has set up mechanisms to look into. And if you look at the regulations and laws on division of revenue, are being reviewed, by the way, annually. And that's why in every financial year, our parliament passes a bill on the allocation of revenue, taking into account all those factors, the population, the need, the geographical size, and whatnot. So those are not issues that you think that you are going to present to Kalonzo and Kimani Ichung'wah, and then they will be addressed. Because I believe if you look at the way national revenue has been divided among 47 counties since the commencement of devolution, you realize that the process has been very, very equitable. And to a great extent, we have had even some special allocation to remedy those deficiencies, taking into account the number of people in a particular county, the need of that county, the economic level and status of that county. So that is a very separate issue from the issues that we are seeing discussed at Bomas. And let us not mix serious issues of national importance with political grievances. Because what we are seeing being aired, and I think we are happy to have Fanya Mambo here because he's really bringing them out as raw as they ought to be brought up. These are political grievances. These are people who are scheming for a by-election, a general election, or next presidential election, so that somebody can be voted in or be voted out, which I support. From myself and my side where I stand, I believe the Kenya Kwanza has massively underperformed, and it's a disappointment to people who voted for it. But there is a mechanism. I think the hustler should also be told that the best place to air their views on the ballot. Because this notion of hating whoever is in power, and then during the next election, you seeing this person and he comes in. You see, during the run-up to general election, there was this baseless hatred of the outgoing president. And all these guys who are now complaining, they saw the so-called chief hustler, the current president, to be their savior. And they went there consciously and voted for that regime. For us, perhaps, who are on the other side, all we can do is to critique. But to lie to us that now these people have seen the light and now they are going to correct their mistake. 2027 is just around the corner. They can wait and correct their mistakes.
That's it. John, yes. Here's the thing. You have 15 seconds, and this is the only thing that I want to respond to.
Yes.
It cannot be a rope. And the government very well is running from one thing, taking Kenya back to the street. Because these gentlemen that you're giving a rope to have an option. They'll go back to where you took away from.
They won't.
So why?
They won't. Bomas serves a very, very good purpose from a public management point of view. That's otherwise these people would be on the streets. Yes, and life would be unbearable. So it's a good thing that we are sitting, like he's rightfully said. That it's a therapeutic session. It's a therapy session. People get to talk. We sit around a table like Alcoholic Anonymous, and we discuss our issues, and we acknowledging their problems. Yes, and once we acknowledge that, then we try and get out of that situation. And then number two, the elections are way out. So even if we were to nini, it wouldn't really help. It helps for now, but the truth of the matter, by the time we get to 2027, things will be very, very different. And lastly, there is no way the president is going to allow for a referendum. It's as simple as that.
Oof, guess what? I got nothing to add. They've looked into it. They've made their submissions. We're going to wait and see exactly what happens at the Bomas of Kenya. It is, for those who are counting, less than a month now for that committee to give us a draft. Like Jackson is saying, you might end up seeing two drafts, where you have the minority side draft and the majority side draft. And then all this ones will be taken to the national houses and the Senate houses. And then we see exactly what happens next. What do you think? Talk to us at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. We are online. The hashtag is The Morning Drift. Those conversations continue. And I'm sorry this morning for those submissions that have come in and I didn't get time to look at them. Guess what? We're going to respond online. That is it. We take a tiny breather. Once we come back, let's talk about a different relationship. Now, for those guys who are married or looking to get married, money is a very big issue. Let's talk about it once we come back.
There is a biblical quotation that says, whoever gives to an orphan lends to God. Today was a great day for us. We have received and hosted a wonderful and great team from Tatua Tatu.